Support for this podcast comes from Owens Corning Air Care Contractor Program. Uncover hidden opportunities and take your HVAC business to the next level with Owens Corning. Owens Corning has done the work to provide you with a turnkey system, from sales training to in-home tools, with a simple story that practically sells itself. Add duct replacement and attic insulation to your service offering as part of our program and elevate your sales today. For more information, visit owenscorning.com/retrofit-contractor.
Welcome to The Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International, a show for residential contractors about residential contractors. We chronicle business journeys, share insights, and celebrate successes in this wonderful industry. I'm your host, Bob Houchin. Hello there, SGI family and other contractor friends. I'm so thankful you're here. As a reminder, all episodes of the Successful Contractor Show are available on YouTube, as well as your podcast player of choice. Today's show is a great discussion I had with Brian Leech of Service Legends in Des Moines, Iowa, a residential service and replacement HVAC and now plumbing company. Brian joined SGI in 2004, and he quickly became a rising superstar within the organization and really home services. This company jumped quickly from $1 million in sales to more than $5 million. He built a state-of-the-art building. Everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. Service Legends unraveled around 2010. Brian lost roughly $750,000. Over the next 10 plus years, Service Legends and Brian changed and grew a great deal. In this interview, Brian details how the business slipped, as well as how he's resurrected the company to its very best form yet. Service Legends is on target to hit $13.3 million at double-digit net profit in 2021. So over this more than 70-minute conversation, Brian bared everything. And in the process, he offered more than a dozen critical thoughts and concepts that would benefit any owner-operator of a mid to large residential contracting company. So with that being said, here's my discussion with Brian Leech of Service Legends in Des Moines, Iowa. I hope you enjoy it and take away a nugget or two. Brian, thank you so very, very much for being on the show today. I've had you on my list for a long time. We've known each other a super long time, and you've got a great story. I'm eager for people to learn it. For those tuning in, could you please share with them your name, your company name, and where you're located?
Yeah, so Brian Leech, Service Legends, located in central Iowa, in the Des Moines compound, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, are you guys servicing now well beyond outside Des Moines, or you pretty much try to keep within that metro area?
Yeah, we've stayed within that 60-mile radius of the capital, and still plenty of market share to gobble up in other affinities. And yeah,
you know, I heard Des Moines really becoming a new hot spot in terms of people relocating. Have you found that? I mean, are housing prices skyrocketing and you getting transplants?
I think it's been that way for a while, ultimately because the income opportunities are really good here. And on top of that, the cost of living is really decent. So I think you got a good ratio of that for wealth building and success. And you don't have to pay $1 million for a 1,200 square foot house here.
Sure.
Some parts of the country.
That will left go unsaid. Yeah, and I was going to say, when I visited you many years ago, I was really impressed with how nice downtown was. I mean, walkability seemed safe. Des Moines a nice spot.
Oh, so. And they've 10x'd it since then. They've really upgraded a lot.
That explains why things are trending in the right direction. So,
not quite the plaza down in Kansas City, but it's working its way there.
It's getting there. You go. Well, we're not here to do an advertisement for Des Moines. We're here to talk. We're here to talk business. You guys, I know, have had a great. We've had a great run for a while, but really strong last couple of years. When we last talked, I think at an expo 12 months ago, whatever it was. Kind of share with everyone how revenue's been tracking the last couple of years.
So last year we were just a little over 10, and we're on target for our budget this year, 13.3.
That's great.
So that's what we're on target for. So this has been 2020 was good. 2021's great.
That's great.
So this is probably the first time in the history of the company that we've done I would say pretty good job of balancing growth and profitability. So
Yeah.
we've experienced some strong operating profit improvements.
That's great.
Some good gross margin stabilization and predictability, and growth on top of it. Usually it's one or the other for me.
Right.
I had a hard time over the years getting both done.
Right. Right.
Or make it profitable, but both was a challenge.
For sure. Well, no, in talking to more and more people and doing this a long time, it really seems like that. The more you grow aggressively, there's like a year or two, if not more, where you got to catch your breath and figure out how to do it profitably. So,
yep.
I guess it sounds like you're hitting your stride in that regard.
Yep. I'd say less throwing money at problems and throwing good coaching and leadership at challenges instead of money.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, how of that revenue you're expecting to hit this year? How many team members do you have these days? Do you have a ballpark idea?
Yeah, I can pull up the month to date, and it's got a little team number, and I believe it's 70 right now.
70. There you go.
And that's coming up off of I think 60 at the beginning of the year. So we've added quite a few positions.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very good. Now let's talk real quick. Do you know how many this is granular, and if you don't have it, it's no big deal. How many install teams are you guys running these days?
So we run 4 solid, and we go up to 5. So we're gearing into the 5 right now. I think we got one more. I think we may have just filled the position for the 5th crew.
Okay.
Here's what we found in the last few years. Very specifically the last 2 years. We growing 20%. The installation team's capacity is outgrowing our business, meaning how much each crew and each team can do in a year. So they're starting to hit that mastery level, I think, at least as far as we're concerned, and we were finding that they were able to digest 35% more revenue than they were in former years. And
wow.
So it was interesting because I remember having 4 crews at half our revenue, if I go back far enough.
Now, are these crews all been with you a long time?
Yep. Yeah, they're almost all journeymen. So
that's excellent.
Yep.
Is it just been continuous training and them just mastering, I guess, the craft after so much time?
Yep, and fine tuning efficiencies. I think one other supporting component of it is higher average tickets from our sales team. We've shifted from 7,500 to north of 10 now, and
that's great.
Following the heels of others we're still following, because there's guys out there with $16,000 and $17,000 average tickets, and gross margins are enhanced. Doesn't take twice as long to put a $17,000 system in as it does an $8,000 system. So
for sure,
seeing that efficiency come. It's both as a result of mastery in the installation team and then the sales team doing higher end systems.
Sure. Now you do a combination, right, of comfort advisor and selling techs, correct?
They're all advisors now.
Oh, they're all advisors now. Okay.
Yeah, okay. And we're not opposed to it. We've got at least half of our sales team could run service calls. They just don't.
Right. Sure.
So we have the ability to swing back that direction if it starts making sense. But right now we're really focused on in the service department on the HVAC side of it, the pathing of maintenance technician to diagnostic technician, and both of those have a primary focus of mastering the fundamentals, building value, offering options, and club membership emphasis, learning the trade, and indoor air quality sales. And so then from there, they branch into more specialized of opportunity team, running older calls in the lead generation side of the business and going over options with homeowners in that category. And that is becoming our launch pad into the sales side of it. So it's about half of our team does not have HVAC experience on the sales team, specifically from a technical standpoint. The other half does. So,
yeah. For
those with the technical background that kind of are raised through the ranks, what must they master? Are there certain KPIs they must routinely hit to earn the right to sell?
Well, I'm incredibly been fascinated with, for the last 3 years, of even before the KPI side of it, just the matrix of hungry, humble, smart. If they don't have that trifecta, there's going to be a challenge. Patrick Lencioni's book, The Ideal Team Player.
Oh
yeah. So we're really paying attention to that, but it's more to your question. It's really verified competency in capacity to present options and to ask for the order. And what we're looking for is an increased threshold in each person's buying paradigms, meaning how much money do they think is a lot of money. And so we're looking for the growth in their mindset of if $500 is a lot of money to that person, they're not ready to sell something that's $15,000.
Right.
And so as they get good closing and good average tickets, then it shifts into lead generation and the effectiveness of that. And so it's important for us as a company to balance not only the performance metrics but the client experience, because otherwise it's short-lived. I mean, we can run dollars per lead up and closing up,
sure.
but we want the client experience to be as profound as that on the other side too. So
sure. Yeah, I was going to say the industry is more transparent than at any point I can remember over the last 20 years. There's countless websites. People can leave reviews, and let's toot your horn. I checked you guys out last night. I think you got like 2,000 reviews and a 4.9 star Google.
Yep.
I mean, that's incredible. You just have to be that. You can turn through lots of calls, but if you don't do a good job of servicing the homeowner and making them happy, people find out real quick.
You bet. Yep.
Well, before we keep digging into the business, and there's lots to cover because you guys have done a lot over the last 15, 20 years. I love sharing people's stories. I think a lot can be learned from the trials and tribulations people have had to navigate to get to where they are today, as much as there is talking us nuts and bolts. So you have a great story, one that I used to always love to talk about and promote through our own marketing. But you were that young guy, like 21, with a beat up truck, knocking on doors. I'll stop there. I'll let you take over because it is a great story.
Well, and the story shifted as I've gotten more clarity. More authentic, I guess, in even telling the story. Because I used to say, I just wanted to change the industry, and it was all, the client experience just wasn't good in this type of business, and I wanted to make a difference. And the reality was, I was a hot-headed, driven, didn't trust the world type young man. And so really that's where the entrepreneurial seizure happened, is I don't really trust anybody with my path. And so I'm just going to go take hold of it. And it wasn't the healthiest. It was the fuel that was needed at the time to push through, but it certainly wasn't the healthiest. That didn't play well later in my leadership years. Angry, hot-headed, controlling, driven, obstinate, stubborn. Yeah, I had to grow out of that to actually experience success. But at the beginning, that's what it was started out as, and I had $750 saved up, and it might have been $850. It was right around in there. But I was working for a small heating and air conditioning company, and they were on the verge of belly up. It was out of their house, and just spent money faster than you could make it. And and ended up in a direction of all right, well, I'm going to give this a shot, and spent $350 on a used service van, and spent another $300 or so on a motor, like back when you could buy a crate motor for that much. And paid a buddy of mine at Case of Beer to help me put the motor in to the van that came from the junkyard. It was pert near Fred Flintstone operatable. You had holes in the floorboards and tools could fall out.
Make
And
sure
then
they're on the wall. Yeah.
I spent my last chunk of money, it's around $50. I said, how many to the print shop, how many flyers can I get for $50? And didn't even have a phone yet. So I had my beeper number at the bottom,
Right.
and I started knocking on doors, handing out flyers. And the, two main challenges right out of the gates where when I did this, I didn't have any clients. And then the other was I didn't have a mechanical license. You had to be a licensed mechanical contractor. So after I did a few jobs illegally without the mechanical license, got a little bit, a couple months in, and was feeling some pressure. I better get that license. And so spent a few $100 and bought the books used, went to study. So I went to go take the test so I knew how to study for it, and I accidentally passed. So you had to get a 75, and I got a 74.7 or 8 or something like that, and they rounded it up, and I passed. Nice. And I'm like, woohoo! I'm a licensed mechanical contractor that didn't really know what he's doing, but I figured it out.
You figured it out. Yeah, let's go make some money. And let's see, that was what, 2000? It was early 2000s, right? Late 90s?
June of 97.
97. Okay. And then you found us in 04, I think, right?
Yeah, it would have been almost winter of 04. I bounced a check to become a part of the group.
Heard that story.
Yeah. I had a bank that, I don't know, it must have been 8-10 years into the journey. I'm like, why did you ever loan me money? He's like, well, sometimes you just got to bet on a good thing and hope it works out. Because my banker it was a small bank, and
sure,
his dad was the president, and I was the topic of a few board meetings, and he was taking some heat for a season.
Right,
for sure.
For a season, I like that.
A season, maybe a few years.
Right, a long season. That's funny. Well, I always admired, because I started early 2004, and I just, you did a great job of networking with a lot of the big players at the time, still who are big players today, and obviously you've come a long, long way. Talk about that, gosh, we're closing in 18, 20 years. What was that journey like? Like, what struggles did you hit along the way? I think you didn't, around the recession, didn't you guys hit a little rough spot like a lot of people did?
Yeah, but for me, it was self-inflicted. So I implemented the elements of the model that were most attractive to me at the time, meaning marketing guarantees. It was all I'm going to say the flashier components of it. That stuff fit my personality. So we grew really, really fast. And to the point where, I remember in 2006, I had a knock on the door. I had 23 employees out of my 1,200 square foot house.
Oh, wow.
And this was a residential area. And so, 10, 12 vans parked on the street. And I got a knock from a county official that said, you need a building. This is residential and nobody can get down the street, and he's like, he serves me the notice. And so then we built the building, and pretty sizable building. I had kind of laid it out so that it could carry us into 10 million in revenue. And now all this extra overhead comes flying in. And I think it was about 2007, 2010 or something like that. All the pieces of the model that I chose not to really dig into, which would be more the operational stuff, the financials, the mathematics, the formulas, the pricing formulas, all the wonderful stuff that makes it profitable. And in a 3-year period, I lost $750,000 in 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So that journey, while I wouldn't want to live it again, but I also wouldn't want to take it away, because it was what broke me as a leader, to be rebuilt the right way. And it was, little phrases like revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. I was such a poser. At the end of the day, I was like, we're the biggest in Des Moines. Biggest what? Biggest liability on your balance sheet? So it was painful. It put me to my knees in tears, and I thought it was all gonna collapse. And it was in that breaking moment that I was humbled, and my leadership and characteristics began to shift. And that was a hard fought battle for a few years. A lot of money to lose, and a lot of leadership issues on my part to prune off. I had a lot of not so favorable traits, critical, controlling, not trusting. All of that stuff from my younger years was
Yeah.
catching up to me.
I think a lot of that, we see that a lot though with business owners. I mean, to build something of size, it takes a level of drive that normal people don't have, right? But there are
Yep.
those fallbacks, those issues with that.
Yep.
And you're right, to grow something sustainably, you have to learn to control that. So what did you do to help? I mean, you obviously had the realization because of the money, but you realized you couldn't keep selling yourself out of that hole. You had to learn,
Right.
you had to grow as a person, as an operator. What did you do to come to that realization and to improve your operation?
Well, after my pity party, on my knees crying and praying,
Yeah.
literally it was the first time I'd surrendered and surrendered any of my control over anything. And I was throwing a temper tantrum, like in a
Yeah.
conversation in prayer, really. I mean, I was like,
Yeah.
fine, I'll just go do missions in Africa or whatever. I was throwing a freaking fit. And
Yeah.
and I just got this calm sense over me that said, it's not about what you do, it's about the man you become.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that broke me. I mean, broke
Yeah.
me. Now the tears are really flying. But then,
Right.
right after that, the next season there was a lot of clarity and humility. Tactically, I went and built Excel spreadsheets and figured out how to use Excel and figured out where the problems were from a pricing standpoint. I opened
Got it.
Instafix back up and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
read past page 4 and went a little deeper.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's 5 million in revenue at the time. We started in SGI at $1 million. So
Yeah.
I don't know how I got to 5 by only reading the first 4 pages, but that was kind of the reality of it. And so
Yeah.
I got back into it, and I just chose to do some of the disciplines that the business needed, kind of figured things out. And then we raised the prices almost 50% as soon as I discovered it. And
Yeah.
that put the sales team from a 70% closing down to a 20. And so
Right.
now we're in big, big trouble. So it
Right.
even got worse, for a season. And so I really had to take a slow grind, took a few weeks to really build into the belief system of that
Yeah.
team. And we went through some processes for that
Sure.
that were lengthy and in depth. And then from there, I'm going to just call that a temporary Band-Aid bailout. But then the journey of culture really became important over the next several years, and surrounding myself with people that were core value matches and establishing who we were going to be and the identity system of the company and what we'll tolerate and what we won't. And so then from that, then the next journey. So then I started attracting good talent around me.
Right.
But was still making mistakes as a leader because I was still pretty controlling.
Sure.
And it took hiring a couple real key leaders that were strong.
Yeah.
That weren't yes people to me, but they would challenge me, and they would push back, and from that would become better solutions, more clarity, and eventually most of the control issues I had was stripped away, and I had to learn to trust, and that's where prosperity started to come into play in this business.
Wow. You hit about 3 major themes that we need to unpack a little bit. So let's start from the ground and work our way up. When you and because we see this a lot with new members, and I know there's members that are listening, they're probably going, oh yeah, that's me. We tell people all the time, you got to raise prices. Once you do the model and you determine what your gross margin is and what you need to net at the bottom of it, you're like, hey, you just need to raise prices. And then that happens. Their closing percentages tank and they're at 20%. And then they've got salespeople whose egos were like, well, I'm closing at 70%. And all of a sudden you're slammed at 20. What did you do to psychoanalyze these poor guys to get them confident and skilled to be able to get, at least at that 50% or 45% or more? What did you have to do?
Here's specifically what I did. I sat down the sales team plus a sampling of a couple other people in the company, one from administration, one from operations, a couple from service, one customer care rep. I think I had about 10 people in the room. I said, well, we've got a challenge. And I think I started with what's the most amount of money, what's the most amount of money a Coca-Cola costs? And people were
Right.
like, well, $1 at the fountain drink. And I was like, well, have you ever been to a game? And I said, what's different? So that we could just kind of started in the context of that. When you can get a can of Coke for 30 cents, why the flip would someone pay $9 at a game or
Right.
have it hand delivered, and generating the epiphany that, well, experience,
Right.
And so next phase, so that's kind of how it opened. I said, all right, so we're going to go through a process, and this may take days. But what I want this team to do, I'm going to put a challenge in front of you. I want you to identify everything that this company does that the competition doesn't. And so we filled the whiteboard, and I sent that out for homework. I said, we reconvene in 48 hours, and
Right.
brought them back. And I was thinking, we're going to get a good 30 things. And what ended up happening was about 260 things put up on the whiteboard.
Wow, cool.
And so then we had to do the mix match, which ones are can get lumped together. Let's condense it down a little bit. But my writing started out, this big. And by the time I was a quarter of the way through the board, I'm writing microphone on a whiteboard, and that thing was packed.
Yeah.
So then we got it all lumped together, and I said, okay, next challenge, and this might take a day, but here's what we're going to do. Each person is going to write down on each of these items how much more you'd be willing to pay to have that as part of this purchase.
Yeah.
And the experience. And so, and I pre-planned that I needed more than just the salespeople. I needed belief system established in more areas of the company. And I wanted the contrast of an accountant and what they value, what they would value it at versus what a salesperson was. And so anyway, we came to conservative consensus on each of those, and the outcome, measurable outcome, was that we were offering about 300 and some % more than the competition, and we're only like 70% higher. That's a great deal. Shifted belief system, and then they ran out, and then that actually became an orientation training that I do for every new team member. And it's the how we're different. It's Service Legends.
That's awesome.
And for it to make the list, for something to make the list, no more than 1% of the competition can do it.
Wow.
And so
That's
it's a little bit of a loose science.
Yeah, for sure.
But a very small fraction.
Yeah.
And then if that gets disrupted, if belief system gets disrupted at all, then I just have people go mystery shop.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And walk it against the list.
Yeah.
If they're having a problem with their belief system isn't in play, and they're like, oh, our prices are too high or whatever. Then.
Right. So it wasn't because you knew the sales process. You guys could sell. It was a confidence issue, and once you proved to them that they're worth that additional dollars, they could do what they were doing.
Yeah, I had to convert, because the reality, the reason they're closing was at 70% is because we're offering all these value propositions, and we're like the same price as the competition. Of course, their closing should have been 99% basically.
Right, sure.
So yeah. That was the first major thing, and it's still in play in the organization. It's about a 4.5, 5 hour training that I do.
Is that right?
Once a quarter for new team members.
Okay.
To give and it's full of stories, stories for examples, but we walk through. I think we've trimmed it down to where it's maybe 125 things that we do that others don't. We've eliminated little stuff over the years, but and kind of my challenge to them when I walk them through it is, I'm just giving you these stories to borrow. Go find your own. Borrow them until you get your own, and watch your belief system and your value in this place continue to rise.
So that it builds their confidence, and also gives them technically ammunition in the home to discuss. This is what we do that makes us worth this much more. That's fantastic. I love that. All right, so that solved a gross margin and net profit issue initially.
Well, that solved a gross margin issue for sure.
Yeah, for sure. You're bailing yourself. you're bailing yourself out.
Yeah, we went from 41% gross margin to within a year we're at 50%, and then we average about 53, 54 on a good year.
That is good.
So
that's great. So that solves the numbers issue. But still, the next thing that you discussed was culture,
Mm-hmm.
and that you recognized that you needed to maybe better define what the foundation of Service Legends was. And I always feel like core values is a big part of that. And it sounds like you had to determine what those were as well. So was that, am I right that you had to kind of put that out for
So
the team?
again, I was just my style. I told the team we're going to go on a quest, and the quest is not to get a set of core values in a handbook that collects dust on a shelf,
Right, right.
but that we're going to go on a quest to come into agreement on the identity system of this business, starting with values. And then it's going to be an important process, because once we're done, we will draw a line in the sand, and you must be a core value match to be on this team. You will live them. And so it was 90 days, back-to-back team meetings every week with the whole team.
Yeah.
Again, whiteboard was filled with hundreds of core values, and we debated and we talked about them. We put depth to them, and then we came up with them. 90 days or so, and then really that was kind of a next evolution. I turned over 80% of the team in about a 2-year period, which was a profitability issue as well, because now our average tenure was 1.2 years in a very sophisticated trade that requires the mastery. So it was the next brutal fight, was to take that vision of the culture and bring it into reality. And so I would say the last 4 or 5 years, we average about 80% retention, and
that's great.
90 plus on core value match. And then the bar gets raised a little bit each year, and we continue to get better at. I think part of the success was not being held hostage, for sure. I don't know how many times you can hear that, but surrounding ourselves with top talent, always looking for great talent all the time, no matter what. And the whole is, I mean, we're from Iowa, field of dreams, right? If you build it, they will come, right? And so
that's true.
So we just stay in that vein, and we continue to mine it and upgrade and upgrade and upgrade from a culture standpoint, and the performance follows,
Right.
So
What are I hate to put you on the spot, but what are your core values? How many do you have? Do you keep it pretty simple so people can quickly understand them?
So we have 5, and 2 of them are actually skills. It took me, I didn't realize that till a few years ago. They're not actually values. So we're gonna actually change those out. I've been threatening to do it for like 3 years now, and I know what the new ones are gonna be. I just haven't done it yet. But anyway, enthusiastic attitude, and we define it as willing to face adversity with an I will overcome attitude. And then the next one is integrity, and our definition, because we put definitions to all of them, so because there's so much interpretation
for sure
on a couple words, but our definition for that is courage over comfort, doing what's right, not what's fun, fast, or easy.
Oh wow, that's good. Yeah.
So then the next one is serving heart, which is we define as the world is better because I'm in it. Simple as that. And then the next 2 that are the skills are open, honest communication and teamwork. So what we've come to recognize is the open communication, ability to communicate well. That's a core competency that's important for the business, but it's not really a value. We can train anybody on that. Same with teamwork. You can train people on teamwork. So we're going to end up replacing those 2 values with hunger.
Okay.
And then the other will be honor.
Okay. Now hunger I get, because you want motivated people. What's the honor? What's the what's the meaning behind that?
So I don't have a definition yet, but it will be something in regards to the pursuit of impeccability of character and seeing the best in others.
That's great. Oh, that's good stuff, Brian.
Everybody's got a shot, So
yeah,
I think that's a really deep well that that can spend the next 30 years mining and growing our culture.
Right, for sure. So let's talk about that. I mean, I think that's incredible. You guys spent so much time in defining what they were and getting everyone's input, because again, not only you get better, clearer core values, you get buy-in, which is
Sure.
really, without the buy-in, it's worthless, right? But at the same time, you also came to the realization that you did not have a match in much of your team with those values. How did you come to that realization? Was it just seeing how people operated? Was it putting them on a plan and say, hey, we don't, I mean, like, to turn your company over that much, like what was that process like?
Painful.
Yeah.
Um,
But it was this visual realization that Joe does not fit
I-
and Jane does not fit.
I'd love to say it was that I was just that decisive in that, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't be honest. I wanted everyone to be the core values, and I probably hung on to people way longer. And I would say a leadership mistake on my part is I weaponized the KPIs instead of weaponized the core values. And so
That's interesting.
people would I put too much pressure on the scorecard, and
Right.
then when people weren't performing on said scorecard, then they would leave pissed off
Right.
versus having the difficult conversations of shaping their values and things like that. So it was a mistake on my part, how I did it. But then over time,
You learned.
over the time it was, those people left, and we just got better at hiring core value matches and better leaders that matched and embodied those values. And
Yeah.
to the point where it took a while, because you still have a couple that can't forget the past, and so it took a
Right.
while, but it's the people that are here are all in, and it's we're finally there. But I know it could have been done quicker, and I know I could do it quicker a second time, much quicker. I wouldn't make near the amount of mistakes.
Sure.
But integrating it into our interview process, integrating it into our performance reviews process,
Right.
and just staying obstinate in this is the direction. It's really easy to grab a book and go, okay, we're going to implement this month. But these things needed to be really deeply rooted. It needed time. It needed time for the oak trees to grow.
Support for this podcast comes from Rhino Fleet Tracking. Rhino is an industry-leading commercial vehicle tracking company with an array of vehicle and equipment tracking solutions, which provide you valuable data about your drivers and fleet. Their live Texas-based customer service has led them to more than 12 years of success. For SGI member discounts and more information, visit rhinofleettracking.com.
Welcome back to the show. I'm talking with Brian Leech of Service Legends in Des Moines, Iowa. So far, we've learned Brian's story, and he's begun explaining how he turned Service Legends around after it cratered in 2010. Brian humbled himself and knew he needed to grow as a person and as a leader. He also needed to get back to the basics of running a successful business, and he recognized the extreme value of culture. In the second part of our conversation, we're going to talk about the two most important core competencies Brian values the most. We're going to talk about the value of coaching. We're going to talk about the criteria Brian's managers must have to be successful. We'll talk about how he took an install manager and converted him into a $3 million producing salesperson in that person's first year. And we'll talk about a whole bunch more. So let's jump back into my conversation with Brian Leech of Service Legends.
The KPI is not who you are. Take a look at where you are now and where you've come 10 years ago. There's a lot to celebrate in there. So set the goals, fine. But from a heart posture standpoint, live by the day, measure by the decade. And so I think it was a pressure relief valve for our people to just go have fun and succeed.
And so what you would see people now, because you're not pointing at them, you didn't hit that average ticket.
They're coming to other people and going, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? Right? Versus it's this big judgment that's coming down on them, taking their heart out.
Right. So they're looking, I mean, obviously you've got the right people, you've trained them well, and they just had a rough month, or they had a rough couple weeks. And because they have the right mindset and you've given them the ability to fail, you've also given them the ability and the confidence to get better. And so it sounds like they're actively working towards getting better. And I'm assuming you see that guys or gals that have a rough little spot, they get themselves out.
Yep. one of the sayings around here is management's responsibility is not to pick you up and carry you to the outcome. Our responsibility is to remove the obstacles that get in your way. So
That's good.
we're a support system.
Right. What kind of opportunities do you provide, some coaching opportunities to have those discussions with Joe or Jane to see what's going on, why that KPI is not being met? I mean, maybe they just have something going on in their personal life. Do you guys have like regular one-on-ones, or is it just you guys always have FaceTime with one another and you have those, open, honest conversations behind closed doors, or what do you guys do?
Yeah, we're praise in public, coach in private.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the other team members are coaching each other, which is fine.
Yeah, right.
We don't embarrass anybody. And so, we do the one-on-ones, we do ride-alongs, we do the role plays. I mean, we do what we were taught from the beginning from SGI and on. And then it just gets a little deeper and more ingrained. I particularly have a unique approach that I don't know that I've got it permeated into the culture in all of my leadership, but my particular approach, if someone's not getting the result that they're after, I always start with desire. Instead of telling them what I want, I ask them what they want.
Yeah,
what do you want?
That's good.
And what that does is that opens up their heart and their mind, and it's almost like it's like giving them the power to shape their destiny. So that's my particular technique. I just always start with desire.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Right.
And then I'll do what's called maybe dual visioning. Okay. Is the things you're doing today going to get you what you want?
Right.
Or not? And then have them answer it. Teach them to fish. Don't fish for them.
Right. It's incredible. So you created these core values, created this culture, created this openness and willingness to take people's faults as long as they're trained right and they're the right people and they get themselves out, and you've seen the company grow both in terms of revenue and profitability.
Yep. Yeah. And then I think one additional layer, and this is in one of our core competencies. We got 2 core competencies, what we want to be the best in the world at. Yep. One is training, broken down into 3 categories: hard skills, soft skills, life skills. That's what we want to be the best in the world at.
Okay.
And then the second is right people, right seat, right timing. And so we've really moved into this posture of, if someone's not succeeding in a particular role, we've talked about desire. We've talked about goal setting. It's okay, what's the right seat on the bus? Versus just write them off. I made too many mistakes of force a round peg in a square hole back in the day. And that's disheartening for everybody. And so we really pay attention to right seat, right bus. Right timing too. I mean, we move people around. This is getting a little ridiculous now, but we'll move people around. I've had service technicians go, you know what? I got a degree in business administration. I just want to come in the office and okay, cool. And then a year later going, oh, it all clicked now. I want to go back out in the field.
Isn't that right?
So we have a lot of freedom on moving people around in chess pieces.
That's great.
I'd say that where we're really starting to shine the last couple of years is even in the leadership standpoint, just really open, candid conversations about org chart.
Yeah.
And we, as a leadership team, we can freely shuffle the deck, and the egos are left at the door.
That's great. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was my third, that initial comment where you talked about how you dug out. The third thing you talked about was bringing on management that you knew could talk to you earnestly, openly, and you being willing to accept it. I peeked at your website last night. I was kind of looking. It's neat. You have your management team up there. So let's talk a little details, and then we'll kind of get into how you guys communicate. You have 2 assistant general managers. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, why the decision to split that into what's operations and sales and marketing? Just felt like it was too much for one person, or you just preferred to have them skill set fits that?
It's just a slight paradigm. I trained up a GM, and I trained them so dang good they went and bought 2 companies in other markets. They're like, I love this model, and I'm like, well, and so it was just this subtle recognition that to handle the entire load, at least in that season, to handle the entire load without the return of the ownership type thing, was the specific scenario. So my intermediate solution was, okay, I am going to split that role, and I'm going to have 2 reports, and one with an operational mindset and one with a salespeople, customer service type mindset.
Right.
And so, and again, it's just temporary. And we started the dance yesterday. Okay, what's it going to look like? You know, just some truths coming into play over the last 6 months. Is 23 years in, I'm fairly tired. I'm ready for a reset, and that's not really an agreement. It's just more of, I need to figure out what the next 20 years looks like within, and how I can operate in my gifting at the max here to bring the most value. And I think it's a little bit more release of control, and then and so we're getting ready to shuffle the deck again. We got some short-term stuff, and then we got some long-term questions to answer. I'm taking this business from 13 to 20 to, I mean, I don't have a stop at this point. We want to grow it. So
that's great. That's great. All right. So your reports are the 2 general managers. Is there anyone else that reports directly to you, just in terms of the org chart breakdown? Okay. And let's see. I also saw an operations manager. Who does he report to? You're one general manager, I suppose, that handles operations.
Yeah, I got AGM of operations, who is process oriented, CPA financial background.
Okay, very good.
And so that operations manager reports to her. And,
very good.
Yeah.
And how many reports does he have? Like how many technician or service managers or install managers?
He was a service technician a long time ago here. Left here, came back for the service manager position, and so he got the opportunity to contrast 2 different environments. And so incredible belief system in the Service Legends way. And he was ready for the next level. And so we've promoted him to operations manager, and now we got to backfill his service manager position. So these are high priority items right now because he's got way too many reports. Well, what'll end up happening, because we opened up home performance, which is spray foam installation, infiltration reduction, and insulation. We've opened up plumbing. We launched plumbing this summer, and we're getting ready to launch electrical. And so what we're moving towards is managers over each of these segments that report to an operations manager, which is him, but we got some backfilling to do. So it'd be unfair to answer the question because he's got way too many reports.
But that's where
he's got team leads in play and stuff, but we're working on that structure right now. So
for sure. For service manager, you know, well, let's just unpack that one. How many people have you found a service manager can really handle well? Is there, we always talk like 8 to 10, or have you found, is it less, is it more?
It depends on if there's like supervisors or team leads, you know, partial infield, partial, and you know, that helps. But I think if it was a full-on, if it was team lead, it's 5 probably. If it's service manager, it's probably 10 to 15 is the right amount. And I would say leading towards less is better. And so as a service manager with 3 team leads, the gentleman who is now our operations manager, he had 20 service technicians, and that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. Right.
And he was doing a really, really good job with it. And but it's going to suffer in this most recent move. So we're working aggressively to backfill that.
Right. Now I'm guessing you've got what, the 1 install manager for the 4 crews?
Yes.
Yep. All right. And then you've got on the other side your other assistant.
And the install manager manages it's 5 crews now. And then he manages the indoor air quality team, which is source removal truck and the sheet metal shop, what needs built out there. Yep.
All right. And then on the other side of the aisle, we've got sales. And how many comfort advisors are you running these days?
I think 6.
6, and then they report to a sales manager that reports to your assistant general manager. Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
And then she has marketing people that report to her. She has human resources people. She's a human resources background.
Okay.
Who loves marketing and gets excited about it.
Cool.
And then she's got call center manager reports to her.
I was going to ask about call center. Okay, that
Two
was next.
two managers, 2 players.
All right. All right. What does your call center look like these days? You have one call center manager. How many dispatchers, call takers?
3 dispatchers. I think we're light on call takers right now, filling some gaps, but
Yeah.
it'll be 6. And then we're gonna hire an inside sales rep soon.
Oh, that's good.
And then we've got sales lead coordinator and
Right.
And an assistant manager
Okay.
to just help balance the load because it's 24/7, right? And then
Right.
we have a night auditor, answers the phones
Interesting.
live
Okay.
all night, but then audits calls all through the night.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So talk about that. What do you mean audits calls? Like just listens for opportunity that was missed or what?
Scores and grades, customer care reps with a
Oh,
quality score and on process, on script, and produces measurements and scoring for.
wow. Okay. And you've noticed booking percentages have gone up since that role was
Yeah. Oh yeah.
created?
Yeah. Our booking conversion right now, month to date, is 94.88%.
Wow. That's
It's
incredible.
pretty solid. Yeah.
That's beyond pretty solid. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was probably 81%.
Yeah, which is what I hear pretty routinely. So that's interesting. So how does that work then? So they score your call takers and then they relay what they discovered to the manager, and then the manager's kind of just has those
I have no idea.
um,
I know I can look at the KPIs for mission control, booking conversion, client re-engagement, client engagement percentage, so uptime on the phone, and then CSAT, which is a client satisfaction score. And so there's a scoring system that feeds into that KPI, and it's just walking down the checklist of the script and friendly and using questions on the phone and on process for script and stuff like that. And then that it gets scored out, and then that data all aggregates up. So
yeah, that's interesting. Now you said you're looking to add an outbound only, right? Like sales or not
yes,
sales.
Inside sales.
Inside sales. Thank you. I'm stumbling all over myself. What was the rationale that you just see there's lots of opportunity to close
just client,
stuff?
Client re-engagement. First level 1 would be non-club member re-engagement.
Okay.
Just selling tune-ups and safety inspections and
right.
Then level 2 would be following up on opportunities and maybe closing some repairs or indoor air quality stuff. That's a ways down the road, but I have a vision for it.
Yeah.
And we've had our customer care team does a lot of outbounding, and they do pretty good with it. But the personality matrix long term for customer service is different than sales.
Right.
And they can flow back and forth a little bit, but
you
gotta have that thick skin, take a lot of no's, and
right.
objections. Where we want a really good customer service rep is going to advocate for the client and love on them and probably not push too hard on objections.
Right.
Inbound closing, sure, no problem, but outbound doing the grind, that'll be a different personality.
No, that's a good nugget for people that are looking to develop their call centers. You're right. Similar, must be a strong communicator, but for sure it's a different mindset and makeup in terms of how you respond.
It's a I failed response is very different.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do next time. Okay, this is what I'm gonna, it's the hate to lose mindset. Customer service rep is a love to win mindset.
Right. And that probably, if you have a CSR calling out and trying to close, and they keep hearing no, I mean that could probably wreck them for a day, honestly.
Oh yeah. If they're the right mix for CSR, that's the spot.
That's a good nugget. All right, so we're getting a little bit of the weeds, but I think that's good for people that are looking to build out their org charts to hear what somebody else has done. Let's talk about these managers that you have that have populated your business. What are their back? I mean, they're not all technical people, right? They're from all sorts of different industries.
My sales manager was a sales rep on my team. Formerly a regional sales rep at Staples, I think. And then my service manager, now operations manager, went through our program, and then another 3 years of field experience at another company, and then came back. So he's got He's got the mechanical background.
Yeah.
And he's a process type guy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love the process, follow the process. Let's get on process.
Right.
And my AGM of sales and marketing is a certified human resources manager, you know, so she's a SHRM and
Right.
with an entrepreneurial, you know, she's got a very similar personality to me. Talk culture index or whatever, you know, hers
Yeah.
is just like Gus's and mine, and just
Daredevil.
yeah, she's a daredevil actually.
Yeah.
And then Missy, my AGM of operations, background in finance. She's an accountant. She did IRS audits, and she's numbers, and also very process driven. And let's see what else. Plumbing manager is 20 years master plumber with no management experience.
Yeah.
So that'll take a while to build, but
Right.
and then our installation manager just got promoted from the field. He's 8-10 years of HVAC and plumbing experience, and he fits the matrix of no management experience, but hungry, humble, smart, man. He will ask for help. What do I do? And he's sharp. So
right. So it sounds like the people that have raised within, or the people that they came through at the right time when you had built everything, and you know, you made sure you had the right people, you trained them the right way, and now they're all
and I've
bought in.
overall just been really surprised with the hidden gems I've had in here that I didn't realize I had.
Yeah,
when
right.
it comes to assembling the leadership team. So
right. Well,
call center manager was formerly call center manager at Nationwide, you know. So
okay.
I
guess, you know, you said you surprised yourself, but I guess it comes back to that hungry, humble, smart, right? You see someone as they are today, but that person sees themselves as something else in 5 to 10 years. You go, wow, like we knew you had the qualities, but it's incredible to see them take themselves to a second and third level.
Yeah, when they're quietly pursuing mastery level, and then all of a sudden they're like, I'll do that. What?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, I thought you were gonna be in that role forever. Fantastic. Let's talk about it. You know,
that's cool. That's super cool. Are those the strongest personality traits of your best leaders and managers? Is the hungry, humble, smart? Or are there other things you go, they all seem to just be hard workers, or X, Y, and Z? Again, I bring this up because there's so many people that are looking at people to that management in their businesses, and they go, who am I looking for? Like, I just don't know where to start. I just was in the truck myself a few years ago, and now I'm adding all these levels, and I'm, you know, their heads are spinning. So what additional advice would you provide for them?
Diversify. Yeah, get belief system strong.
Yeah.
In the culture in the company, first and foremost. I was just writing this down. What am I looking for outside of hungry, humble, smart? Every manager in this business for what we do has to have capacity to build personal relationships. They have to be relational. The second minimum criteria is they have to have credibility and authority in the subject matter that they are leading. Doesn't mean that a service manager has to have HVAC background, but they have to have credibility and an authority in a category that brings significant value to those technicians' lives.
Right.
They have to, you know, because people follow credibility and authority.
Right.
And then the third is hungry, humble, smart. So and I think the other thing that I'm coming to recognize is if it takes 4 years to become a journeyman in the trades, and to start even tasting mastery level, it sure as hell isn't going to get done turning a person into a manager in 6 months.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
It's not going to happen. And so it's test the waters. You know, start training leaders before they have the title, and put them in leadership trainings and give them a little responsibility. Don't sink them. I mean, we wouldn't take a technician and then, you know, set them in a lab for 2 weeks and then go have them run no heats and no cools. Why would we do that with managers? I think I'm just coming to that. I've probably told myself that a few times in the last 5 years, and I got to remind myself. It takes a few years to develop a good manager.
You know, it makes sense when you hear it. but you don't think
Yep.
about it until someone says it.
Yep.
And I want to chase that a bit. So what does training look like? Is it just a series of conversations and coaching them through different circumstances?
Similar to what we would do with the technicians. We got formal training outside of Service Legends on
Yeah.
process and sales or whatever. And then
Yeah.
I think probably one of the greater breakthroughs that we did is we ask our technicians to role play,
Mhm.
but we
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And so, if I feel like there's some areas for development, we'll just teach. I mean, I'll teach internal management techniques
Yeah.
and topics and things. They go through formal trainings outside of here. We have a management trainer that comes in and topographically teaches, conflict resolution and time management and all those categories.
That's great.
And then I'll put one of my roles when needed is I'll put it into play and I'll role play.
Yeah.
I got open door managers, and we've gone through seasons where every week we role played for an hour and a half. It's like,
Wow.
what's the topic? Frame the topic. All right, you two are in the hot seat. Have the conversation, and then I give them rapid fire feedback systems. Do it again.
Mhm.
Okay, and then I'll ask the other person, the recipient, the client in this scenario,
Right.
so how's this conversation making you feel right now?
Yeah.
And are you getting ready to walk out excited? Are you encouraged? And so just challenging those soft skills and in the conversation flow. So we role play it.
Is there how do you determine what soft skills are required that we need additional more training? Is it just like, let's bring and talk about as many as possible that we see in our business, or you like, hey, I just noticed, I don't know, the technician, certain department is kind of just not got that right vibe, and so we need to figure something out? Or I mean, how do you determine that? It just seems like it's a difficult thing to pinpoint.
I ask a lot of questions. I put my technician hat on and what's really going on here,
Right.
and then I'll listen, and then I'll give a diagnosis, or I'll ask a question. Well, is it possible that this is what they're feeling? This is I'm a results-oriented person, so
Right.
if in the definition of insanity, if we're not getting the result that we're after, let's take a look at it. And so I'll ask the heart questions, like, well, what's that person want?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We'll go find out. Maybe what they want, what you want, is two different things.
Right.
Have a conversation on that, or tell me what you think's going on, and then I'll just listen, ask a bunch of questions, and I'll propose, well, what if it's this? What if that's just one layer deep in the onion? What if this is what's really going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you asked this? Have you asked that? Oh no, that's good. So
right. It's kind of like sales in a way, right? You don't answer.
Oh, it is.
It's answering with a question. Yeah.
It is with an increased emphasis on the genuine care
Right.
of the long-term relationship,
Right.
And that matters on the client side too.
For sure. Yeah.
But each one of our people is going to impact lots and lots of clients. So I don't know. I call it heart diagnostics sometimes.
I like that. That's good. Do you have a few more minutes? There's a few things I'd like to ask you. Okay. Awesome. There's two big chunks that we haven't addressed. Now, a lot of your technicians, a lot of your people have all been homegrown, right? Did you build out a technical center or something, or you have a whole process for how people are built up?
We have a federally and state approved apprenticeship program.
Okay, that's what I thought. Something like that.
And so that's the on paper, and and we've got within the guidelines of that, we've got to do a minimum of 144 hours of training for each technician and all that, but we're comboed into technical training and soft skill training, and it's a little different, but there's a good amount of structure to it, but there could always be more.
Sure. Okay.
So
do you have like a lab within the?
Yeah, we got a lab in the building. We got communication training rooms. We've got a mechanical engineer that was formerly an instructor at a trade school.
Okay.
And so he's our full-time trainer, and he trains in small pods so that he he can go into the level of
Okay.
what the technician's at.
Got it.
So it's like 2 or 3 technicians, and he's training for a day, and then the next day it's 2 or 3 more, and then and he just rotates, so that you don't have half technicians go, man, I know all this crap, I'm just doing a drill, but
Right. Just build it into their schedule. You're coming in for this chunk of time to work with him.
Yep.
Okay. Now when you well, first of all, I guess, do you earmark people? Okay, you just seem to be more destined to be an installer. You're destined to be more in service, or do you prefer them to start and install and then show technical competency, and then, okay, you've got some communication strengths, so we'll move you into service? Or what is your outlook on
that's a giant experiment.
that?
It is a giant experiment. If I'll do, people will apply. We recruit for apprentices.
Okay.
And service and install apprentices both. And through the interview process, we'll determine where we're going to place them. And part of that is based upon need.
Sure.
Which one do we need to beef up more?
Yeah.
And then which isn't the right decision, but anyway. And then part of it is where we think they're going to excel the best. But since we've had the freedom, we've opened it up a lot more free to move chess pieces around. We'll have service technicians that will move over into install. Literally, my number one salesperson this year look like he's knocking on the door of 3 million, and this is his first year selling.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So he was a carpet layer. I handpicked, recruited him.
Yeah.
He spent 4 years in installation. He became the installation manager, and then one day he calls me and he says, I want to try sales. He said, I remember when you told me when I took the installation management position that I hadn't yet experienced the category on the service side. I said, and I told him that may limit some of your opportunities in the future in what you can lead, because you have strong credibility and authority on the operational side and the installation of things. But if you want to go into higher levels of leadership, you may want to consider making sure you've got some credibility and authority on the soft skills side of this business, aka service. Well, he just popped it one day and he said, I remember that conversation from a few years ago, and I want to do sales. I'm like, okay, so we need to find your replacement, and as installation manager, and January 1 he started, and he's run rating for 3 million.
That is nuts. Well, we're going to have him on the show at some point then. That's $3 million in the first year is something else.
Yes, yeah, and he's super optimistic. But here's the beauty of it. This is where the experiment came in. I thought, he is very much a charismatic, optimistic. Come on, guys, we got this. Super enthusiastic type leader. Terrible attention to detail. He can do it, but he has to get it out. Organizational skills. Very similar to me in that aspect. And I sitting there scratching my head one day, and I said, I wonder how much credibility and authority and confidence it puts in a person's heart if they've got installation background and then they move into the sales category. So it was an experiment. I initiated it with a different person. I said, have you thought about going from installation over to the service side? Because I knew he was really hungry for money.
Yeah.
And that path had started, but then the manager that was helping nurture that path just made the decision, I'm gonna go to sales.
Wow.
It clicked for him. And anyway, so I do think that experience matters in the heart of confidence and self-belief and the ability to speak from authority and credibility. So I would have never career pathed installation technician to management to number 1 sales rep. Yeah. So I think it's just part of be open to moving chess pieces around.
You mentioned it earlier, and I said, if you had that mindset of, no, you really are good at that, and we want you to be good at it, stay in your lane. You would have missed out on $3 million of revenue. So that's incredible. That's a good story. All right. I got another little jump because I've noticed you've rebranded yourself.
Yes.
So let's dive into marketing a little bit. You've done this every 10 or so years. I feel like you went from A. Leechman when the Yellow Pages where it was at, to Service Legends,
Well, it was originally Alger Leachman, then A. Leachman, then Leachman, then came up with the name Service Legends. So we made it Leachman Service Legends for a while to piggyback the brand over.
Yeah.
And then it was really a upgrade to the professionalism and colors and because I'm not very visual. I mean, I had the Service Legends fans looking like NASCARs and whatever. So
yeah.
we went for a real clean, posh, professional, less distraction type brand.
All right. And even the colors change. It's more than just clean lines. It's like a little darker colors, right?
It's a deep purple.
Right.
With we had to name the color because there is no name for it, but a Dragonfire red.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, it's 4 colors in the brand now. And the first disruption was, well, we went ahead and took a look at the heating and air conditioning companies across the market, and we wanted to take a look at your colors. And 80% of your competitors use the color red and blue, just like you. Yeah. And so how are you going to stand out? I'm like, oh, good point.
Yeah.
So
did they propose the colors, or you just said I kind of like?
They give us like 20 of them, and
okay. Yeah.
I fell in love with the deep purple, just from a deeper meaning, royalty. And the Knights of the Round Table.
Legends,
Legends.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. All right. So how long did that take? I mean, you're rewrapping vehicles. I mean, that's not a small undertaking at your size.
We did it was 60 days, about 6 months of discovery, and then all for a deadline to roll out new website and brand standards and vehicles. Yeah. So it took a little while, about 6 months.
That's crazy. Now, what is your to get a little more strategic in market? What's your marketing mix these days? What seems to be doing the best for you? I know you were big on TV and radio at one point. Is that still part of it as well?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably about, I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 60% of the total marketing budget, and then a lot of digital. Yeah. We've just this year, for the first time in like 8 years, started experimenting with some direct mail again.
Okay.
Scotastic is helping with that, and
great.
And I'm completely out of it now. I'm out of the marketing. Every once in a while, radio ads will come through me, and I'll reword it a little bit, and I go record it. But the creative side of it, I do a little more than maybe consult a bit.
Yeah, you really enjoyed that, I thought, back in the day.
Well, it was, again, stripping control away. The profound statement of the greatest strength of the leader can become the biggest bottleneck of its growth. And so really I'm on a quest to train my replacement for everything in here so that I can really discover what the heck I want to do here.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, that's a good transition to kind of wrapping up. What do you, and maybe you don't know this because it sounds like you're still kind of searching for it. So other than searching for your replacement, what do you see as the next 10 years for Service Legends and for yourself?
Yeah, so I want to build a trade school.
Okay.
We're looking for second location right now, and I'm talking two classrooms, full-size classrooms, and a triple trade lab that's real posh, and I want to be a training center for lots of, not just us.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to. So I want to build the infrastructure here.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a stubborn patience because I am not a patient person, but I'm really stubborn when I think something's the right way, and so that will overweigh and I think the right way is to never be held hostage in our success. And so I want to build an infrastructure here in leadership and management development, systems, and in trades skill development, soft skill and hard skill in that, to be able to deploy into other markets.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
that's exciting.
So yeah, I've had lots of opportunities to go in other markets, and no, not yet.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna build. I don't want to build it on sand.
Right. Right.
So
do you have an idea of where you would look, or that's not even that doesn't
even matter.
Yeah.
I'd be Midwest. I have it stated on our plan that we'll start out Midwest.
Right.
Why go try and figure out how to do heating and air conditioning in 72-degree lovely San Diego when I know the environment here and there's a ton of market right here.
Oh yeah.
And then if maybe I were to get a plane, then I don't have to fly it all the way across the country. I don't know, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Similar
Hey,
weather patterns. And
Midwest is good for, I mean, you get the hot and the cold, right? So,
yep. Yep.
So, well, excellent. Well, good. Well, let's see. I mean, we've covered a lot today, Brian. I don't know that there's anything more I'm sure there's a lot more I could ask, but I think we're over an hour.
There's only so much that the audience can digest.
That's right.
Yep.
And thank you for being so open about your story and
Sure.
how things are run at Service Legends. I think there's tons of great nuggets for people to take. And just I really appreciate your time and your openness, and just thank you for being willing to share it all with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, it's so good to see your face, and hopefully maybe I'll see you at the next expo.
You will.
That's Brian Leech of Service Legends in Des Moines, Iowa. Thanks for joining us. If you feel like you have a great story worth sharing that would also help other contractors, email me at bhouchin@yoursgi.com. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, if you're on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. If you're on your favorite podcast player, leave us a 5-star review. And please join us for future episodes. It's my promise to you that we will continue to interview successful contractors and other influential individuals in the residential contracting world. This is The Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International.
Support for this podcast comes from Staples. Stocking your office shouldn't be difficult. Multiple vendors with separate invoices can create more work than you realize. Staples aims to be your one source for everything your business needs. As an SGI member, you'll receive access to staplesadvantage.com. 3,000 aggressively priced items, up to 30% off list price on the products you use most. Dedicated account management and award-winning customer service, free next business day delivery on orders over $50, plus a generous rebate. Use staplesadvantage.com and order today. The Successful Contractor podcast is part of the Success Group International family. SGI is the largest member-owned best practices organization for independent residential services contractors. SGI provides its members a competitive edge through proven proprietary management tools and expertise, marketing programs, training, and group buying power, along with a highly active and eager to help membership. For more information about Success Group International, visit www.yoursgi.com.